Hello, today I'm going to be talking about living with a disability and what it has taught me. I was born with cerebral palsy. It affects both my legs and apparently my left arm slightly, though I don't really notice it, to be honest, in my left arm. Yes, so it's a condition that is caused when some sort of damage occurs either during or very shortly after the birth of a child. The damage usually will occur in the brain, which then causes damage to the cells and leads on to a sort of disrupted signal path between your brain and certain muscles in your body. Cerebral palsy can affect many different areas of your body. You could have diplegia, which is what I have, affecting both my legs. Hemiplegia, which is one side usually of your arm and your leg. So it could be your right arm and right leg, or left arm and left leg. You can also have quadriplegia, where all your limbs are affected. As with every single disability, not just cerebral palsy, the degrees vary as to how much it can affect you, and from person to person it's very different. You most certainly can't put people in a box because, say, there was someone else who suffered with cerebral palsy that affected their legs. Their experience is probably going to be a lot different than mine. They might have one slightly weaker leg than the other, well, like me, or they might have generally stronger muscles than I do, or weaker. They might not be able to walk, whereas I can walk. Different things like that. So yeah, every single disability is very different. I didn't really accept my disability until I was about, I'd say, in my late teens, really, mid to late teens, which is quite late considering that I was born with it. But I think it's such a massive thing to actually accept that it's quite normal for you to grow up and not feel like you've accepted it, not feel like that your disability is part of you, which it is. And you end up, I guess, questioning quite a lot, why is it me, why can't I just be normal, especially during your childhood. Something I think that's really important is a parent's acceptance of their child's disability. That has to come first, and of course that's a difficult thing in itself, to have a child and then to want them to be happy and healthy and perfect, and then to have the news that, oh, your child has a disability. That's very difficult to come to terms with. But I think it's very important that you do, and that you work to instill a positive attitude in your child, so that they get a start on the best sort of attitude to have towards their disability. And I think my parents had this, and I owe my positive attitude towards my abilities and disabilities to my parents, because they always raised me to not see it as the end of the world. It's an obstacle, but it's very much part of me. And there are ways that I can get around things, and I just have to embrace what I have, the abilities that I do have, which are many. And luckily, I'm very lucky, because I can walk, I can talk well, I can get around independently, although sometimes it is a bit difficult. I can still do these things, I can get myself ready, I have a lot of independence, really. So yes, it's very important for the parents to focus on that, what your child can do, rather than what they can't. Of course, you're going to go through a period, and you're going to go through a period where you're not accepting, and it's not going to end after any certain time. It's a very hard thing to go with. Just like, because I have accepted my disability, it doesn't mean that I don't have down days, and it doesn't mean that I don't have days where I really wish that I didn't have the disability. But overall, that acceptance is paramount, really. Yes, and also just kind of viewing a disability as not an add-on to your child, but rather a part of them. It is a part of them. It's going to affect them in many different ways in their everyday life, every single day. Not a single day of my life goes past where I don't at least think about my disability at least once. And that's really, it's strange, but it's part of my life. It's something that, I would be a different person if I didn't have my disability. It's informed me in so many ways. It's helped me to accept people for their differences. It's helped give me a bit more of an open mind when it comes to disabilities and differences in general. I'm not saying I'm a perfect person because of it, no way, but it's helped that process. It's also helped me to appreciate the abilities I do have, because I know what it's like to live with a limited abilities in other areas physically. And generally it's just made me realise how lucky I am. And I think as a parent, it definitely shouldn't be viewed as the end of the world. So many people, especially now in the 21st century, have disabilities and live long and fulfilled lives. It's not a case of, it's not a disadvantage as much as it used to be. People with disabilities can get along in society and be considered completely normal, which they are. For example, nowadays, my friends, people I meet, my disability isn't even considered, because it's not. It's considered, but it's not considered to the extent that maybe we shouldn't really be talking to her, or maybe we have to tread on eggshells around her. She might get more offended if we ask or if we don't, and all these sorts of things. It's just not brought up. People see, I hope, for the most part, my personality and myself more than they see my disability. They will see it as part of me, and I encourage questions if they're curious, because who wouldn't be curious? I would be curious, if they want to. If they want to ask me, I'm open, completely open, and that's that. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say I have a very, very good life, and there's no reason why any other disabled person shouldn't have a good life, or at least have a chance to have a good life.